Your head shaped like a pullback dick, bitch. You cannot come for me at all.
After the gas, they went from the club and they got followed. One girl, they dropped the girl off and then they shut up the car. She was with her family.
The sun hadn't come up yet over Miramar, Florida. It was just after 5:30 in the morning on July 5th, 2026. The quiet hour that follows a long 4th of July night. Most of the neighborhood on Sunshine Boulevard was still asleep. The fireworks had faded hours ago. The air was heavy and still. And then a lime green Lamborghini Urus came rolling west down the street. You couldn't miss it, a fluorescent head-turning machine that announced itself from half a block away. Inside were 3 young people returning from a holiday weekend gathering, 21 years old, tired, probably, ready to get home. What none of them knew, what they couldn't have known, was that another car was already moving toward them. A white BMW crept up alongside the driver's side of the Lamborghini. It moved quietly, deliberately, and then whoever was inside opened fire. Multiple shots, rapid, the kind of barrage that the ShotSpotter system across Miramar registered in seconds, pinging police dispatch before anyone had even had time to scream. All 3 people inside the Lamborghini were hit. The Urus kept moving, drifting forward on momentum, its driver no longer in control, rolling through a stop sign and crashing slowly into the front yard of a home on Southwest 27th Street. The airbags deployed, the car came to rest against the property, and the neighborhood woke up to something that none of them would forget. One neighbor jolted awake, called 911. You can hear the confusion in the recordings, released days later. "Somebody just ran into my house," the caller told the dispatcher before realizing the truth was worse. Outside, people were screaming, pleading, a woman's voice somewhere in the chaos, begging for help. Miramar Fire Rescue rushed all 3 victims to Memorial Regional Hospital in Hollywood. All 3 were in critical condition, and within hours, police confirmed what the community was already beginning to fear. The young woman in that Lamborghini, 21 years old, a rising name, someone with hundreds of thousands of people who had watched her dance and laugh and live on their phone screens, had not survived. Her name was Brianna Johnson, and within hours, the internet had already decided who was responsible. The question is, were they right? Before we go any further into what happened on that road in Miramar, it matters. It really matters that you understand who Brianna Johnson was, not as a headline, not as a thumbnail image on a true crime channel. As a person. Brianna Johnson grew up in Pompano Beach, Florida, a city in Broward County about 30 miles north of Miami. By the time she was finishing high school, she had already left an impression on the people around her. According to her grandmother, she was a cheerleader at Blanche Ely High School, and during homecoming, she was crowned Miss Blanche Ely. That moment, her grandmother remembered it. The smile, the energy, the way Brianna carried herself, it stayed with people. She was funny. Her mother, Hope Jones, would later tell reporters that her daughter was goofy, that she liked pulling pranks, that she had an infectious way of making the people around her laugh. Everybody loved her, Hope said simply, and she just kept doing it. After high school, Brianna enrolled at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, where she was studying sociology. She was, according to her family, preparing to enter her junior year at the time of her death. She had plans, real plans. Her mother said Brianna wanted to eventually go into health administration. She was also working part-time in the dietary department at Holy Cross Hospital, a college student with a job, a major, a future. But somewhere in those years of school and work, Brianna also discovered that she had a gift for being herself in front of a camera. She started posting videos, jokes, lifestyle content, everyday moments. She was unfiltered in the best way. Her page grew. People shared her videos. Comments flooded in. And Brianna, who had grown up like so many young people of her generation watching the internet turn ordinary people into names worth knowing, realized that she was becoming one of those names. By the time she died, Brianna Johnson had accumulated over 380,000 followers on TikTok under the handle @_@girlbri. And roughly 85,000 to 88,000 on Instagram, where she posted as @DreamDoll_Bri. Combined, she was approaching 500,000 people whose mornings and evenings were punctuated, at least, Occasionally, by something Brianna had said or done. Her content was high energy. Dancing, fashion, travel. She'd posted photos from Jamaica, from boats, from moments that made her world look vibrant and alive. She was close to her sister, who she lived with. She was close to her cousin AJ. She documented all of it. And then, in early 2026, she took a step that moved her from internet personality toward something more. A song called Bend Over was released in March of that year, featuring Brianna alongside her friend and fellow influencer known as Saditi Rax. The track caught fire on TikTok. It became a sound, the kind of thing that gets attached to thousands of videos, the kind of visibility that every young artist in the social media era is chasing. Celebrities were noticing it. Her mother told reporters she was really blowing up, with shows in Tampa and local performances on the calendar. She had 3 sisters. She had a child, according to family members who posted about her after her death. She had a grandmother who remembered her homecoming crown. She had a mother who used the word everybody. Everybody loved her, not just her followers, the people who actually knew her. That matters, because by the time the sun came up on July 5th, Brianna Johnson had a future. She was 21 years old and building something real. And whoever pulled up alongside that green Lamborghini and opened fire, they took not just her life, but everything she was still becoming. To understand what happened in the early hours of July 5th, 2026, you have to follow the night from the beginning. The 4th of July is one of the biggest social occasions of the year in South Florida. The cities of Broward County, Miramar, Pompano Beach, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale come alive every year with gatherings, parties, fireworks that go on past midnight, and the particular energy of summer in a place that already runs hot. People stay out late, plans overlap, the night stretches.
I'll tell you, this is no way to wake up on a Sunday morning. It's a chaotic scene. Hearing multiple shots in the middle of the night or in the wee hours of the morning is always disturbing. At this point, we don't believe that there is a bigger picture with regard to the neighborhood being in danger, but certainly they targeted this particular car for some reason, and we're trying to figure out why.
Me and my family supposedly heard what sounded like gunshots around like 5 something at 6 in the morning. It definitely is scary, especially for the fact that all the neighbors here have been the same neighbors for the last at least 10 years, so whoever was involved, we might know them.
According to reporting by WSVN and CBS News Miami, Brianna Johnson spent the 4th of July evening at a large party held at a mansion-style Airbnb rental somewhere in the Miramar area. She was there with her cousin, Arthur Lee Johnson III, known to his family and friends as AJ, and at least one other male companion. According to some accounts, a hairstylist who is acquainted with Brianna was also present at some point during the night, though the specific details of who was where and when remain part of the active investigation. The Airbnb party was the kind of gathering common on holiday weekends, large, lively, the kind of thing that spills out of whatever space contains it. At some point, according to investigators, the group also visited a nightclub. Miramar Police later confirmed that over the course of the night, the group had stopped at 2 gas stations. It's at one of those gas station stops, reportedly a Shell station, that things begin to get complicated. Reporting from WSVN, CBS News Miami, and Complex indicate that a fight or altercation broke out at the gas station. The nature of the altercation, who was involved, what it was about, whether it was physical or verbal, who instigated it, has not been officially confirmed by Miramar Police as of the time of this writing. What police have confirmed is that a social media post appearing to show some kind of confrontation involving the green Lamborghini at a gas station was being treated as a key piece of evidence in the investigation. What police have also confirmed is that their working theory is the Lamborghini was followed from somewhere, possibly the party, possibly the gas station, possibly from some point along the route home before the shooting occurred. Miramar Police Chief Delrish Moss said publicly that detectives were working to determine whether the car was trailed before the attack. He described the shooting as targeted. Certainly they targeted this particular car for some reason, Moss said. We're trying to figure out why. At approximately 5:33 in the morning, the 3 people in that lime green Lamborghini Urus were heading westbound on Sunshine Boulevard, approaching the intersection with Southwest 27th Court. The fireworks were long over. The neighborhood was quiet. That's when the white sedan appeared. Let's spend a moment here because this is where the confirmed facts begin to diverge from the assumptions that took over online. What Miramar Police have officially confirmed is this. Investigators are aware of what appears to be an altercation involving the lime green Lamborghini at a gas station at some point during the night of July 4th into the early morning hours of July 5th. A Miramar Police Department spokesperson told reporters that a social media post appeared to show some kind of confrontation and that the footage was being closely examined alongside surveillance footage and other digital evidence. What police have not confirmed is that this altercation was the cause of the shooting. They have not named any suspects connected to the gas station incident. They have not described who was involved in the altercation on either side or what the argument, if there was one, was about. The spokesperson put it directly. It was too early to tell whether the gas station confrontation and the subsequent shooting were connected. That distinction matters, and it matters a great deal. Because online, the gap between those two statements, there may have been an argument at a gas station, and the argument at the gas station caused the shooting, collapsed almost immediately. According to reports from CBS News Miami, investigators say the group attended a mansion Airbnb party, a nightclub, and 2 gas stations prior to the shooting. The sequence of those events, and which of them may have drawn the attention of whoever was in that white BMW, is something detectives were still actively piecing together. What the surveillance evidence does appear to show is the white BMW approaching the Lamborghini, pulling alongside it, and then speeding away immediately after firing. The Lamborghini, struck with multiple rounds, continued moving before drifting through the stop sign and coming to rest in a residential yard. Miramar Police Chief Moss described the gunfire as quite rapid fire. Photos circulating on social media appeared to show the exterior of the Lamborghini riddled with approximately a dozen bullet holes along its driver's side doors. Whether those shots were the conclusion of something that started at a gas station hours earlier, or whether something else entirely brought that white BMW to Sunshine Boulevard that morning, is a question that, as of the time of this documentary's production, remains officially unanswered. That distinction, the difference between what was reported and what was confirmed, will become critically important as we look at what happened after the shooting, when the internet stopped waiting for answers and started supplying its own. At 5:33 a.m. on July 5th, 2026, Miramar's ShotSpotter system registered multiple rounds of rapid gunfire in the area of Southwest 27th Court and Sunshine Boulevard. The system is designed to detect and triangulate the sound of gunshots, alerting law enforcement in seconds. It did its job. Police and Miramar Fire Rescue were dispatched almost immediately. What they found when they arrived was this. A fluorescent green Lamborghini Urus crashed into the front yard of a residential property. The vehicle had drifted roughly a block from the point of impact, rolling through a stop sign before coming to rest. Ring doorbell camera footage from a nearby home, which later circulated widely on social media, captured key moments: the approach of the vehicles, the attack, the Lamborghini drifting forward and disappearing into the yard. The footage is difficult to watch. All 3 occupants of the Lamborghini had been struck by gunfire. Frantic callers were already on the line screaming, begging for ambulances, describing the crash into a nearby home. One caller told dispatchers they thought someone had hit their house. That's how quickly everything happened. Paramedics rushed all 3 victims to Memorial Regional Hospital in Hollywood. All 3 arrived in critical condition. Brianna Johnson DreamDoll Bri did not survive. Miramar Police confirmed her death in a public statement. She was 21 years old. The 2 men with her cousin AJ, and a 3rd companion who has not been publicly identified by police were both hospitalized. The 3rd man, who had been shot in the face, was later released from the hospital after having his jaw wired shut. Arthur Lee Johnson III, AJ, did not recover. On Wednesday, July 8, 2026, 3 days after the shooting, Miramar Police announced that AJ had succumbed to his injuries. He was 21 years old. He and Brianna were cousins who, according to family members, had been raised more like siblings. AJ's father, Arthur Johnson II, spoke to reporters in the days that followed. He said he had raised those kids himself. He pushed back firmly against any suggestion of gang involvement. "I raised those kids, they weren't troublemakers," he said. What had begun as a triple shooting was now officially a double homicide. Miramar Police Chief Delrish Moss had addressed reporters on the morning of the shooting. He described it as a chaotic scene. He confirmed that detectives believed the Lamborghini had been deliberately targeted. "This is no way to wake up on a Sunday morning," he said. He noted that the investigation was active, that the department had received a significant volume of tips, and that detectives were working through each one. He also confirmed that as of that point, investigators had no identified suspects and no one in custody. The community reacted with the kind of shock that quiet neighborhoods produce when violence arrives unexpectedly. One neighbor told reporters, "We've never experienced anything like that. Anyone here pretty much knows each other, so it's a pretty tight-knit neighborhood." Another resident said she'd initially heard the gunfire and assumed it was fireworks left over from the holiday. "We thought it was fireworks from the 4th of July, she said. It wasn't until she looked outside that she understood what had actually happened. Broward County Crime Stoppers offered a reward of up to $5,000 for information leading to an arrest. The shooter or shooters in the white BMW were still out there, and the internet, already watching, was already working. Within hours of the first news reports going out, Brianna Johnson's TikTok account was flooded with thousands of messages. Grief poured in from followers who had never met her, but felt like they knew her. "Broward is lost for words, Bri," one person wrote. "You did not deserve that at all." That is the sincere human side of what happened online, and it deserves to be acknowledged before we get to the other side, because there was another side. Social media, TikTok, Instagram, X, and the assorted forums that orbit them has a well-documented tendency to transform tragedies involving public figures into impromptu investigations. People with no access to evidence, no law enforcement training, and no accountability begin assembling theories. Screenshots get shared, names get named, and because online spaces have no editors, no fact-checkers, and no consequence for being wrong, the rumor and the confirmed fact can sit side by side in a feed and look identical. That is exactly what happened in the hours and days after Brianna Johnson was killed. The first major narrative to emerge centered on the gas station altercation. A video apparently showing a confrontation involving the green Lamborghini at a gas station at some point during the night began circulating. People watched it. They drew conclusions. The theory that the gas station fight had directly led to the shooting became, for many online viewers, settled fact, even though police had publicly stated that the connection between the two was unconfirmed and still under investigation. Then a second narrative emerged, and this one was more pointed and more dangerous. According to multiple social media accounts, including a family member of Brianna Johnson, who identified herself on Instagram, a hairstylist who had reportedly been present at the Airbnb party that night, and who was allegedly inside the Lamborghini at some point, had gotten out of the car before the shooting occurred. That detail, the hairstylist leaving the car, became the anchor for an elaborate theory that spread rapidly online. The theory went like this. The hairstylist had orchestrated the attack. She had allegedly tipped off the shooters, passed along the location, and then exited the vehicle so she wouldn't be harmed when the shots came. To be absolutely clear, this theory has not been confirmed by Miramar Police. No arrest has been made. No charges have been filed. Police have not publicly named this individual as a suspect or a person of interest in the investigation. What we do know, because it was publicly reported, is that the hairstylist posted what appeared to be a statement addressing the situation. In it, she said she hadn't known they were being followed. She said she had gotten out of the car after an argument with Brianna. She said that everyone was blaming her and that she was also grieving. She later deleted the post. Brianna's family member publicly called out the hairstylist. She said the story wasn't adding up. She was angry, grieving, and she said so publicly. That reaction is entirely human and understandable. What followed, however, was not entirely contained to people who personally knew Brianna. Across forums, comment sections, and video compilations, thousands of people, strangers to everyone involved, began treating an unverified theory as confirmed truth. Names were shared, screenshots were taken and reshared. Online harassment, the kind that in recent years has followed cases like this with grim predictability, became part of the story. As of the time this documentary was produced, Miramar Police had made no arrests and had named no suspects. The investigation was ongoing. Whether the hairstylist played any role in what happened on Sunshine Boulevard that morning is something that law enforcement, not social media, will ultimately be responsible for determining. That context does not erase anyone's grief. It doesn't mean the questions being asked are wrong, but it does mean that a private individual, whatever her actual role in these events, was subjected to a trial on the internet before a single charge was filed, a single piece of evidence was admitted, or a single detective had said her name in public. This is the part of the story that deserves attention alongside the crime itself. Let's separate what is confirmed from what is not, because in a case like this, that line is everything. Miramar Police have confirmed that Brianna Johnson, 21, was shot and killed at approximately 5:33 a.m. on July 5, 2026, at the intersection of Southwest 27th Court and Sunshine Boulevard in Miramar, Florida. She was riding in a lime green Lamborghini Urus with two other individuals. A white sedan pulled alongside the driver's side and opened fire. All three occupants were struck. The Lamborghini traveled approximately 1 block after the shooting before running through a stop sign and crashing into a residential property. Police confirmed that Arthur Lee Johnson III, AJ, was Brianna's cousin. He died 3 days later on July 8th. The third victim survived. He was shot in the face, was hospitalized, and was later released after having his jaw wired shut. Police confirmed the shooting was targeted. ShotSpotter technology detected the gunfire. Ring doorbell camera footage captured portions of the attack and was being examined by investigators. And investigators confirmed that the group had attended an Airbnb party, a nightclub, and 2 gas stations before the shooting. A social media video appearing to show some kind of altercation involving the green Lamborghini at a gas station was confirmed to be a key piece of evidence under examination. What has not been confirmed that the gas station altercation directly caused the shooting. What has not been confirmed, the identity or involvement of any specific individual. What remains unknown, the identity of the shooter. What remains unknown, the precise motive. What remains unknown, whether Brianna, AJ, or the third victim was the intended target, or all three. As of July 9th, 2026, no arrests had been made. Detectives had received a large volume of tips and were working through each one. If you know something about what happened on Sunshine Boulevard in the early morning hours of July 5th, if you were at the party, the nightclub, either gas station, or anywhere along that route that night, please come forward. The Miramar Police Department homicide tip line is 9546-024937. Broward Crime Stoppers, where tips can be made anonymously, is 954493-TIPS. There is a reward of up to $5,000 for qualifying information. Ajay's father said his son was not a troublemaker. Brianna's mother said everybody loved her. The investigators are trying to find out who decided, somewhere in the early morning hours of July 5th, that the people in that Lamborghini deserved to die. Brianna Johnson was 21 years old. She was a junior in college, studying sociology, working a part-time job at a hospital, building an online following that had crossed 400,000 people and was still climbing. She had a viral sound on TikTok. She had shows on the calendar. She had 3 sisters and a mother who described her with a single word she kept returning to: everybody. Everybody loved her. She left a party on the 4th of July weekend and rode in a Lamborghini through a quiet Miramar neighborhood as the sun was about to come up. And she never made it home. Her cousin AJ didn't either. That is the story. That is the center of it. And before we go anywhere else, say it needs to be held. But there is something else that happened in the wake of this shooting that is worth discussing seriously, because it will happen again. It happens every time a tragedy intersects with social media and a person with a public profile. Within hours of Brianna's death becoming news, the internet mobilized. Some of that mobilization was beautiful, genuine grief, genuine community, genuine love for someone who had made strangers smile. But some of it became something else. Theories hardened into accusations. Accusations spread without evidence. A private individual, whatever her actual role in these events, was subjected to a public trial by people who had never met her, who had no access to the police investigation, and who faced no consequences for being wrong. This is not new. We have seen it before. After the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013, Reddit users collectively identified the wrong person as the bomber. After other high-profile cases, innocent individuals have been harassed, threatened, and had their lives upended because the internet moved faster than the truth. The frustrating thing is that the impulse behind it is not entirely wrong. When someone is killed and the police are slow, or when communities have reasons, historical and current, to distrust how law enforcement handles cases like this, the desire to find answers is real. The grief is real. The anger is real, but a viral accusation is not an investigation. A screenshot is not evidence. And the person whose name is circulating on TikTok tonight may be grieving just as hard as everyone else, or they may be the key to solving this. We don't know. That's the point. We don't know. What we do know is that every time the internet decides it has already solved something, it makes the actual investigation harder. Witnesses become reluctant, potential suspects become alerted, and the people who were supposed to be the center of the story, Brianna, AJ, the family left behind, get pushed to the margins of a conversation that was supposed to be about them. Ajay's father said something that deserves to be heard clearly. He said he raised those kids. He said they weren't troublemakers. He was a father who had just lost his son, and he was already having to defend who that son was, not to police, but to the internet. Hope Jones, Brianna's mother, told reporters she hadn't received much information from the police, that the case was under investigation. She set up a memorial fund to help cover the costs of burying her daughter. She said Brianna wanted to go into health administration someday. She was still talking about her in the future tense, the way parents do when the present tense is too unbearable. Brianna Johnson wanted to go into health administration. She was a cheerleader who won homecoming. She worked in a hospital and posted videos that made strangers laugh and feel something. She was going to be 22. She was going to finish college. She was going to figure it out the way you do at 21 when everything still feels possible. The shooter or shooters who were in that white BMW on Sunshine Boulevard at 5:33 in the morning on July 5th, 2026, they are still out there. The case is still open. If you know something, please tell someone who can actually do something with it. You can be anonymous. And if you don't know something, if you're watching a video right now that claims to have figured out who did this, please remember that investigations take time for a reason. That the person whose name is in the caption might be someone's mother, someone's daughter, someone's friend. That being wrong online doesn't cost you anything, but it can cost them everything. Brianna Johnson deserves justice. Ajay Johnson deserves justice. Their family deserves answers, not a rumor, not a viral theory. Justice, the kind that comes from evidence, from witnesses who come forward, from investigators who do the slow, unglamorous work of finding out what actually happened on a dark street in Miramar while the rest of the neighborhood was still sleeping. That work is ongoing, and Brianna is worth waiting for it to be done right. Rest in peace, Brianna Johnson. Rest in peace, Arthur Lee Johnson III. They were 21 years old.